Thank you. And I feel honored to be here. And wow, what a room full of people. I don't think I'm going to say anything you don't know. But I want to be a little bit provocative today because we are here to talk about parents. And as you said, Ralph, we've tried everything else. And we realize that the key driver for what we want to sustain has got to be parents. And we haven't done it right. But let's step back. The campaign is talking about readiness for school. It's talking about summer learning. It's talking about attendance. So what's the magnitude of the issue? In the US, you have roughly, give or take, 35 million kids under the age of 8, right? And then you look at the number of children that are 3 and under. Let's look at the journey of a child, an intimate relationship with its mother in the womb, born into a family, raised by multiple adults, likely, or a parent, and then low-income children often are cared for by informal care providers, a kith and kin, perhaps some in childcare, particularly children birth to 3, don't really have access to affordable childcare that's of any quality, so we'll forget about quality for a moment. But there are multiple adults in a child's life, and then you go into preschool, then you transition into kindergarten and the K-12 system. So children see so many transitions over time, but the one consistent adult is the parent or the primary caregiver. They have got to be the key driver in this. And given that we don't have our very young children in institutions, the institutional approaches that we're using to engage parents, as problematic as they may be, but at least there is an attempt to do it, is really going to only capture most of the children age 3 and older. So if we're going to put a pin in and double down on children's health, we have to think about parents as primary drivers for this. So at the foundation, we came to the realization that if we have to move the needle on quality early learning and prepare children for kindergarten and achieve that impact at scale, we have to shift from a paradigm of thinking about programs and interventions to thinking about the resources, supports, skills, and competencies of the adults in children's lives. We have to think about how it is that they can do the best of what they can do. We also have to assume that they want the best results for kids. And the framework with which we have approached our work with parents to date has really, I think, had 3 aspects to it, none of which is flattering, right? There's very well-meaning ambivalence. We don't really know how to engage parents. We try, but we're not quite sure how far to go, how far to come in, and we've got solutions that are that may be rooted in science, but we haven't really asked them what it is they want to see for their children. We've got unconscious biases at play about what people know, about what people desire, and I think really unintentional ignorance. So if we can actually, as we're selling tea or coffee or trying to create a Starbucks experience, step back and say, what does the consumer really want? What's the experience they want to have, and help that drive those decisions? We need to bring that kind of thinking into the way we think about solutions for children. And I had, while in my tenure at the Clayton Foundation, an experience that I will never forget. One of the things the foundation did over time was really bring in new programs into Colorado and then spin them off. And so we were one of the first early Head Start programs. And then, of course, the charter school legislation came into play, and Denver Public Schools absolutely refused to accept any charter applications. And the foundation had, it was an operating foundation, had a really good relationship with DPS. And we said, you know what, we'll do this. We will put an application in. And I got to be the director of the first charter school in Denver, preschool through third grade, 120 students that were ages 3 to grade 3. So really in the sweet spot that we're talking about now. In the first 3 months of the charter school, I had so many in-school dismissals because I refused to send kids home. Racial slurs flying around the classroom, kids hitting each other. I just couldn't figure out what was going on, except that I had lots of young little boys in my office talking to them about what happened here and you know, what triggered this for you and what didn't. And we had a very clear behavior policy. We looked at this for a while, and one day I said, you know what, I got to get the parents in this classroom. I mean, we have to have them in this discussion with us. We're assuming that to call them every single day or every other day and complain to them about their child is going to take away from their work. They're busy trying to hold down jobs. Unconscious biases, right? Right at play. So we actually opened it up to all parents to come and help us develop a discipline policy. We put up what we had there, which was something we adopted from the Denver Public Schools, and we said, here are the statistics for the last 3 months. We've resisted calling you, but we've had to call some of you and had to have in-home suspensions. We're talking about young kids. I need your help here, and I need to ask you what you think we can do differently. To my surprise, because I actually was detached from the outcome, and I didn't feel like there was any sacred cow in what it is we presented. And it took us a while, it took me a while personally to get there, because you are relinquishing control in an institution. But the parents came down much stronger than we would be. They said, you know, you need to call me the first time this thing happens. Do not assume that I can't take the time to talk to my child on the phone. And we need to be part of this solution. So we reworked the discipline policy. It was something they tracked. We had a parent leader come in and take a look at the stats every month, and we drove down discipline incidents. And it was because they really were part of the solution, and the messages between school and home were consistent. And we'd never had that problem again. It was a humbling experience for me, because I felt, you know, this is something that I should have done early on. It was a brand new school. We could have started it this way. But to not think about parents as the customers who we are serving, and to understand what their desires and their values were, and to build a program that was responsive to that, was a mistake that we made. So what I want to say to you today, and I think my challenge to all of you, is how can we infuse in the communities that GLR is in, and boy, this is a movement. This is, you know, you're talking about multiple states, multiple communities. This is an absolute movement. How can we infuse the kind of thinking and bring out and lift up the voices and the ambitions of parents? What are, as we're driving down and we're doubling down, what are the 2 or 3 indicators that parents want to move the needle on? Let's not decide this for them. Let's really understand what their ambitions are. Let them pick those indicators. Let us also have them co-design those solutions. And co-design has so far really for most of us, or many of us, meant, come join me in my design. But co-design, if we're really serious about it, is to ask what's going to work, what's not going to work, and to have people actually help you from the ground up, and again, suspend what you think the outcome should be. You're going to hear from a very impressive panel later this afternoon. Tons of great information and wisdom on what's important for kids. And parents know that too. And they want what's right for their kids. And I think we need to start to really question ourselves. We need to take the well-meaning ambivalence, the unconscious biases, and really shift that to intentional and informed partnership. Because when we've talked about parent involvement before, it's been about involving them in what we're doing. When we've talked about partnerships before, it's about having them partner in an intervention that we have already decided. It's about engaging them in what we've decided. It's about empowering them to do what we want. I want to flip that. I want us to partner in them achieving their desires. I want us to get involved in their future. I want us to feel empowered to do right by them. I think we have to switch the tables. And we are trying at the Packard Foundation to take this approach to all of our grant making, not just with parents, but also listening to teachers about what's working for them, what isn't working for them, and how is it that you can develop professional development approaches that are actually going to give you the kinds of results, and what is it that they would like to see in that. So, human-centered design is a big deal. Everyone's talking about it. But human-centered design has to go one step further. It has, for most, intents and purposes, meant that we get a problem definition from it. But in the solution, we have failed to be human-centered. And I think that's what I am really asking you all to do. And that's my challenge to this group. I mean, this is, if we can't do it with the minds and the power in this room, I think we're in trouble. And frankly, I think we will get there. I mean, we've got Too Small to Fail, that's meeting parents where they're at. We've got Vroom, that's taking the show on the road using technology. So there are kernels of this. We need it all to aggregate into something that's big. And Ralph is right. I was quiet through the entire meeting. I did speak at the end, and people who know me well know that I listen a lot, and then sometimes at the end will open my mouth and say something. But I think for this campaign to succeed, we needed to have proof points on the ground. We absolutely needed to have your leadership. And I am so impressed standing up here, looking at the room full of people, the number of funders that you have assembled. We are proud to have been a founding funder of this and really look forward to all of the success that this campaign is going to deliver on behalf of kids. So thank you so much, Ralph, and thank you to you all.